Growing up in the 70s and 80s in good old Blighty was a total mazeballs. Schools were a lot stricter than what they are today. Even the headmaster would dress up as a cross between a nun and Batman to make themselves look somewhat threatening. Our curfews were when the streetlights came on, and your parents looked a lot older than 28. The one thing you used to see a lot of back then on television wasn't just racial stereotypical sitcoms or Monty Python, but scary-ass public service announcements that really did put the fear of God into you. Like little Gemma picking up that hot sparkler, resulting in 3 sports socks being placed on her hand. Or Johnny being a typical 12-year-old little arsehole who never listened to anyone, ended up being electrocuted as he tried to retrieve his frisbee from a substation. The broadcasters, whether it be your local ITV station or even the BBC, would show these public service announcements to warn kids about the dangers that would either kill you, have you buggered by jug-eared perverts driving a Ford Granada, or even get the shit beaten out of you by your parents for disappearing out of the street without telling them where you were going. Whatever the scenario, it left you with a bad taste in your mouth. Unless, of course, you'd been on top of the pops with a certain individual, or being taught to swim by a bearded nonce. Despite the scare factor of those adverts, they actually did the job that they were made for. To be honest, kids these days seriously don't give a shit about anything, probably because they didn't grow up being traumatised by these ads, and if they did show these ads similar to what we saw, their parents would complain how inappropriate they are. Even when the nation was told about teenage pregnancies in the UK was the worst in Europe, a campaign was started to try and reduce those numbers, but it was pointless because you still couldn't advertise condoms on daytime TV because it was deemed inappropriate for younger viewers. Seriously, what the fuck? Wasn't it kids you were aiming this campaign at? ITV even banned an episode of Beverly Hills 90210 titled Isn't It Romantic, where the school had a guest speaker talking about AIDS. Honestly, they did eventually lift the ban, but wouldn't show the episode until after 10 PM, 5 hours after its original time slot. Anyway, let me show you some public service announcements that were broadcast on UK TV that stopped us sleeping at night. This one was telling kids not to play near rail lines, as while you were buggering around pretending you're in a circus, a big ass train will coincidentally come by at the same time you fall off some big concrete slab, while your friends looked so shocked they forgot to comb their hair. This second one starred Darth Vader himself, Mr. David Prowse, telling children how to cross the road in a dubbed voice. Yep, not even British TV like his Bristolian accent. Racist.
I think I better have a word with those two. That wasn't very clever, was it? If you'd been looking and listening all the way across, that wouldn't have happened. That's better. Remember, always use the Green Cross code, because I won't be there when you cross the road.
The third ad was telling us kids not to fly kites in weird model airplanes on string near electricity pylons and substations and anywhere that could kill you, really. Talk about taking the risk out of fun.
Make sure there are no pylons, overhead lines, or electric substations around.
Go!
Control lines, even if made of string or nylon, can conduct electricity, especially when they're wet.
Watch out!
Delta Zero Bravo, you are clear to take off.
Always make sure you're in a clear area to take off. Then you'll fly safe and play safe.
Finally, the most famous public service announcement of them all, Charlie Says. It's so famous, even The Prodigy created a dance track out of it that reached number 3 in the UK chart back in 1991. Anywho, these PSAs ran on TV from the 1970s to the 1980s, with Charlie the Cat being voiced by radio presenter and comedian Kenny Everett. These were so successful and popular that later on they were released on video and DVD. Also, in 2014, 2 new Charlie Says public safety ads were created, with Charlie being voiced by David Williams.
Mum asked us why we hadn't gone, and when I told her, she said we'd been good for not going, and would we like a day out with her instead? Charlie says always tell your mummy before you go off somewhere so she knows who you are with.
Well, there you have it. A sample of public service announcements that traumatised us kids back in the 70s and 80s. If you want to see more, then search UK public information films on YouTube. You'll find a majority of them on there, mainly in bad quality. Ta-ta!